Matt, maybe you could talk a little bit about the sort of the delta that Stuart has been able to create since taking over, really not that long ago.
Thanks, Sandy. So just to set the stage, Stuart joined the business in January of 2023, and his joining was set up, I guess you could say, by a business that wasn't necessarily in decline, but it wasn't growing either. And as we thought about the opportunity for this business, given its various different characteristics and market positioning, resources, product offerings, we felt like there was a real opportunity to manage this business in a different way and produce growth. And that's exactly what we talked about with Stuart as part of his joining the company. And since that time, Stuart and team, and we'll come back to that because I think that's a really important part of the story, have delivered 8 consecutive quarters of growth at an average growth rate of 10% a quarter. So quarter on quarter, average of 10% over the last 8 quarters after a business that was effectively flat for 2 or 3 years. And that has led to a LTM revenue that is up some 20 to 25% since when he joined, and an EBITDA that's up over 40% since he joined. And to put sort of some round numbers around this, currently it's about a $450 million revenue business, about $140 million revenue EBITDA. So this is a scale business. So that growth is material in absolute numbers as well.
Matt, talk to me about the relationship between your team, the EQT team, and the Prometric team as it relates to this combo of Stuart and Nick.
It's no small thing to change a CEO in any private equity investment, and it's even a bigger deal in year 4. And so there was a lot of apprehension, as there always is, about a leadership change, particularly at that time in our hold period. We were in a situation where we also were in need of a CFO, in addition to a CEO. And the idea that we could solve both of those with a combination of Stuart and the CFO that he had a prior working relationship with and prior successful track record was very appealing. Now, that was sort of outside looking in. As the two of them got started, it was very evident very quickly to me and many others at EQT that this combination is a real powerful multiplier of impact, because not only do the two have a prior working relationship and prior experience sort of driving value, but it also means that Stuart doesn't need to spend his time distracted either finding a new CFO or beginning to work with the new CFO or finance team. And as a new leader, having that transparency and that access to information, you can't make any decisions if you don't have correct information. And having a trusted partner in that, I think, was a key element of the ability to move fast, because as Stuart said, it allowed him to focus his attention on the operational matters where he could make real impact.
And I think it's interesting, Matt, when you think about it and over your career, I mean, you've put billions of dollars to work, and you're literally, kind of handing over to, in this case, Stuart and Nick, like more than $1 billion. We're looking to create returns on that money, and you can't do it yourself. And you have a great team, but you can't do it yourself. You have to really rely upon the quality of the CEO and the CFO and that team in order to bring that stuff to life. So for you guys, it must have also felt good that you can communicate with the company in a different way.
I think that communication is key. And the operating model that you were describing between the chairman, the deal lead, and the CEO is a big part of that, because it allows us to very quickly as owners understand what's going on at the business. And I have to say, early on, most of those conversations were difficult ones, because we didn't have the level of transparency and access to information that, and frankly, we thought we did. But as Stuart and his team got deeper and deeper into things, they were surfacing things that they didn't expect, we weren't expecting to hear, but problems that needed solving. And so initially that communication was challenging, but therapeutic in some ways. And eventually, slowly, and then more quickly, that communication got a lot more positive. And and as that communication got more positive, we started to see as sort of a leading indicator of the results coming through.
We all know what that's like when you have politicians who are, doing that stuff. It's legit. And I've actually been in the field with, with three of them at a client, and the way that they interact with each other in front of the customer. I mean, it's legit. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, look, I think part of it just starts with philosophy. I've never seen triangles in organizations, the typical organizational chart with the CEO at the top and, chiefs at the next level. And that may be the reality in terms of title and rewards and such that comes with it. And my wife, of course, jokes with me, it's easy for me not to see triangles because I am the CEO. But that said, I try to think about circles of people who need to, get work done together. And the circle at the top, at least, is this executive team, my direct reports and myself. And, I think it's really important. I think when you don't see yourself as superior to others, sure, I have to give them job evaluations and feedback and direct appropriately and all those things. But, look, I have all the same fallibilities, challenges. There are things I don't do as well today as I did 10 years ago. So, it starts with humility. It starts with mutual respect. And I think from a personality perspective, we have all the right people at the table. And in my calculus as to who to add to a team or who to subtract from a team, skills and abilities matter a lot, but the kind of character matters, I think, even more. If we start with character and we have folks who don't really care about empire building, don't really care about getting more of my time than somebody else, don't really care about winning at the expense of others, then I think you can do great things together. So we do have that mutual respect at the table. We have high achievers who want to win. They want to see others win. It's really, just like being on a great athletic team. I mean, you can see teams in the recent NCAA tournament or in any sport you look at, there are teams filled with great players that don't win championships, but there are also teams that, are filled with B players who do win championships. The ideal world is A players who win championships. And I think we have that right now. It's why we have outperformed at a growth level our competition very significantly by a factor of maybe 2 to 4 times in terms of growth rate over the last 2 years. We just want to win more, but we want to do it the right way. We want to do it together and we want to do it with respect. And when we do that, the rest of the organization sees it. So now we hear things about, how proud people are of our leadership team. And we see it in employee survey results. We see it in rising Glassdoor ratings. And of course, that's not the end result, we're striving for, but it is, they're important metrics of kind of the health and culture of the organization. And I totally agree with what you said earlier. I've never started by saying, how do we change the culture? Because you can't change it. The work has to, eventually change the culture. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to expedite that cycle, which has, allowed us to perform well.
I've been tracking the same, and it's been very observable. And it started, a bit slow, right? We were working through what those improvements needed to be early on, and that's not always the most fun thing to do. But as soon as I think the team began to see that it was working, ever so slowly, it was beginning to work, and then it was beginning to build steam, and then the success became contagious, and they all began to believe that what they could do was, they could do something tomorrow better than the day before. And you had different folks who might not have been as actively participating and participating a lot more actively. And I agree with this notion that, you know, they had an accountability to one another. And that was developed over time, that they were doing it not just for themselves, not just for the financial outcomes, but for the team and for the leadership as well. And that's unique in my experience.